welcome to my virtual change manager change chats. Today we're talking about change impacts. This is the engine room of change planning. I'm going to take you through some of the key questions that you should ask and also some tips and tricks when it comes to detailed impact assessments. The first question that you should be asking is who is impacted, and I find that nowadays I'm asking this all the time when it comes to my people leadership and when I hear something and I think, well, who's actually impacted by this change and what do I need to communicate even to my team? So if you're a people leader, if you're a business manager, or even if you're a change lead, change manager, these are the things that you want to ask. Who's impacted, and understand that there are internal and external groups who could be impacted. Internally, it could be various departments. Externally, it could be customers, clients, if that's what you call them in your organization, but also third-party suppliers or any third-party providers that you might have. Now, let's jump into how are they impacted. This is really critical, and essentially there are 6 aspects to which people could be impacted by a change. You've got process, you've got policy, you have technology that could be changing as a result of things. Technology is quite up there when it comes to the change happening in organizations now, and probably in most organizations there's a lot of tech change. Products or services that you're offering, is it something new that your customer service area, for example, is going to be delivering? Is the physical environment changing? And that's really critical and often gets missed. And the reason why it's important is because that can be very disruptive for people if their physical environment is changing as part of a change. And if we think about moving to hybrid ways of working, flexible working, oftentimes the physical environment does change, and that means it's very unsettling for people. And then people changes. And what I mean by people changes, restructures, are there going to be efficiency gains? Are people going to be needed to be redirected onto other pieces of work or transition to other areas in the organization? This one is especially disruptive for people. So as you would know, if you've been through any people changes yourself, you know that even a change of reporting line can be very, very unsettling. The rule of thumb in relation to all these areas is that the more areas that are changing, the bigger the impact, right? So you've got your departments, your areas like the who, then you have the how are these areas changing, and then knowing that the most number of tick boxes you get in here means actually that group is greatly impacted. Then the last piece is about who is impacted the most. And the reason why we ask that is because your change plan wants to focus in on the areas that are impacted the most, not to the exclusion of the other areas, of course, but just really to make sure that they are supported the most through the change. Now, let me just go through some of the tips and tricks that I have for you today around change impact assessments, and as you go and assess those. So when assessing change impacts, interview multiple people in the same area. One of the biggest fall downs is that people interview one person who they call the subject matter expert. They talk to them about the change, they collect the information, and then they create the change plan. And they wonder why, when they go through the implementation, it's not as effective as it could be. And that's because you probably underestimated the change, because oftentimes the subject matter expert is the person who knows the process the most. They're the one who can articulate it the most, but they're also not the majority sitting within that typical business unit. So you want to speak to more than one person, and if you can run a focus group, even better. Observe the current state. Don't just do a desktop analysis. Don't just map out the processes and not think about watching how people actually follow those processes, or more to the point, don't follow the processes. The current state observation helps you understand the culture of the team and also how you can best implement the change in the team. Map the current processes end to end. If you're lucky, you're going to have a business analyst who might actually be able to do this for you, but if not, it is worth just putting together a high level step-by-step, this is what people do. The reason being is because you might find out end to end that there's more people who actually touch that process and who are impacted. Then you go back to your detailed impact assessment, you go back and talk to those people who you've identified as part of this process mapping, and then you make sure that your actual change plan addresses their areas as well. And then cross-reference your stakeholder list. So if you're introducing a change, typically you're listing down all the people that you're talking to about the change. But as you go through your detailed impact assessment, I can guarantee that you might actually pick up 1 or 2 people who you never thought of before. If you don't go back and then cross-reference and say, okay, are we engaging them in this business meeting about the change? Are we briefing them as part of the change? you're going to miss some of these stakeholders and, more importantly, their own change journey. So make sure that you actually pay attention to these tips and tricks that comes from years of experience. And I hope that this helps from this change chat today. Have a great day, and remember that change matters because your people matter.